Hello, everybody. It's Mrs. Pound, and we are starting a new chapter, Chapter 4, on cellular processes from BGAU Biology, 4th edition. And the first section we're going to talk about is Section 4A on cellular energy. So let's talk about from Section 4.1 energy relationships. So our objective today is going to be explain why energy is required for life, define autotroph and heterotroph, and describe how energy is stored in ATP molecules. So the first thing we have to know is that energy cannot be recycled. A lot of things on Earth, God set up amazing cycles that matter is recycled all the time, but energy cannot be recycled. There has to be a constant input of energy into any system. And so we need a constant input of energy for life. Now, the first link in that are autotrophs. This is an organism that makes its own food. These are producers. They're also known as producers. And some examples are oak trees and algae. Plants, a lot of protists are autotrophs. They make energy. And I'm sure you already know this because you've talked about this since a very young age, that energy input that we constantly get comes from the sun. Now, heterotrophs, like this spider in the web here, are nutritionally dependent organisms, also known as consumers. So examples are this spider, man, a cow, mushrooms, and you can see whereas plants make their own food, this spider has made a web so that it can trap its food so that it can consume it. It is dependent upon other organisms. Now, the link in all of this thing is a molecule called adenosine triphosphate. Now, that's a pretty big mouthful. Um, so we shorten that to ATP, the A from adenosine, T from tri, and the P from phosphate. So ATP is what I expect you to remember. And this is a phosphorus containing compound that stores energy. Um, and we'll get into that a little bit more. But basically, ATP is a battery. Okay, it works very much like a battery. Batteries store chemical energy. ATP stores chemical energy that is trapped by the sun. Okay, it's obtained from the sun by autotrophs, and ATP stores that energy in its chemical bonds, much like a battery. And the cool thing is, ATP is a rechargeable battery. Now, how it does this is the phosphate groups of ATP molecules are bound together by unstable, high energy covalent bonds. So they hold a lot of energy in that bond, but not too much energy. Okay. And what happens is ATP can become ADP. ADP is adenosine diphosphate. So A from adenosine, D for di, and the P for phosphate. So ADP. And this is a phosphorus containing compound that is produced when a phosphate bond is broken in ATP and energy is released. So when we break bonds, it releases energy that can be used by the cell. So basically, ADP is ATP minus one phosphate group. So di meaning two, tri meaning three. So I want you to, in your notes, draw this diagram. If you turn the page, it's on the back of the page. This shows how ATP acts like a rechargeable battery. Okay, so we have here ATP. It's a charged battery. What we do is we add water to it, which releases energy. So this is a hydrolysis reaction. Remember, we talked about those with digestion and when we were talking about molecules and how they were built. So you add water, which releases energy, and one of these phosphate bonds breaks off, which provides energy. Now, another reason we use the ATP molecule is because, yes, we take in food and it has the energy we need, but it's too much energy. It would actually destroy the cells if all of that energy was released so quickly. The cells require less energy. It's kind of like a pop machine. Okay, the pop machine downstairs at our school. Um, it won't accept 20s. It will only accept $1 bills and coins. Well, the cells are that way too. $20 would be too much for them of energy. They can only accept $1 bills, okay? And so ATP is that $1 bill of energy. Um, but when that energy is released, now it's dead. So energy has to be added in, water is lost, and the battery becomes charged. Um, and that cycle keeps going around and around. So, just like a rechargeable battery, when you lose the energy, you have to add it back in. So, the thing is, it looks like the energy is being recycled, but it's not because there has to be a input of different energy. It cannot be the same energy going around and around. It's actually input from an outside source of the energy. So it's not really recycled, but the ATP molecule is in fact recharged. So our objectives were to explain why energy is required for life and define autotroph and heterotroph and describe how energy is stored in ATP molecules. And just as far as the energy required for life, just everything requires energy. All the processes performed by the cell to build things. Even in your life, it's not at a cellular level, but everything requires energy if you're going to do anything. So, just energy is the ability to do work. In order for the cell to do work, it needs energy. So, don't forget your 5 questions in your notes, and also don't forget to keep watching the video to answer the questions.